Welcome to Hypercut Chronicles.
On May 22nd, 1985, the world premiere of the 14th installment of the James Bond saga, A View to a Kill, took place in San Francisco. 12 years after first taking on the role, Roger Moore made his final appearance as the iconic British secret agent.
Call me James.
In A View to a Kill, Bond faces off an eccentric tech billionaire raised by a Nazi scientist obsessed with eugenics. That maniac plans to cement his monopoly by flooding Silicon Valley, destroying his competition, and gaining control over the microchip industry. Hold on! Who's in charge of the illustrations here? Anyway, the title comes from a short story by Ian Fleming, the creator of James Bond, called From a View to a Kill. The film was announced as early as the end of Octopussy in 1983. Since The Spy Who Loved Me in 1977, Roger Moore had been committing to the Bond role on a film-by-film basis. Due to Moore's hesitation to sign multi-film contracts over several years and to cover his bases, longtime Bond producer Cubby Broccoli arranged screen tests for several actors as potential replacements. Among them was American actor James Brolin, who underwent costly auditions to take over the role for Octopussy, despite not being British.
Just the right size.
Ultimately, Moore was persuaded by Broccoli to return once more as Bond. At the age of 57, several actors were considered for the role of Max Zorin, the psychopathic billionaire. David Bowie was initially cast, but he ultimately turned down the part. The role was then offered to Sting, who also declined. It was finally the brilliant Christopher Walken who took on the character of Zorin. Grace Jones brought her unique energy and originality to the role of May Day, Zorin's formidable right hand. Patrick Macnee played Bond's ally, Sir Godfrey Tibbett. As for the Bond girl, Tanya Roberts was cast as Stacey Sutton, and... well, we'll talk about that later. Production on A View to a Kill began in June 1984 in Iceland, where the pre-title sequence was filmed. Just days later, disaster struck. The iconic 007 stage at Pinewood Studios burned to the ground. Undeterred, the Bond crew continued shooting at other studios and on location, including several French landmarks such as the Eiffel Tower. A scene featuring a disheveled Hercule Poirot was filmed at the Jules Verne restaurant, located on the second floor of the tower. But the real spectacle was a planned parachute jump from the top of the Eiffel Tower. Securing permission for this stunt required negotiating with over 30 different authorities, and the risks for lead stuntman B.J. Worth were considerable. After extensive training and dozens of practice jumps from hot air balloons, Worth nailed the jump on his very first attempt, prompting producer Cubby Broccoli to cancel the backup jump to avoid further risk. However, his backup, Don Calvet, attempted an unauthorized jump the next morning, thinking he wouldn't be noticed. He was immediately dismissed for jeopardizing the production's filming permits in Paris, where more scenes and a dramatic car chase along the Seine, choreographed by legendary French stunt coordinator Rémi Julien, were still scheduled. True to Bond tradition, the film's exotic locations were numerous. Crews shot at the Château de Chantilly in San Francisco and at Ascot Racecourse, before returning to the newly rebuilt Albert R. Broccoli's 007 stage at Pinewood Studios. The end result is rather disappointing. Roger Moore's fatigue and age become increasingly hard to hide, and yet the production insists on pairing him with love interests half his age.
I'll buy you an ice cream.
And putting him in situations that require ever more obvious stunt doubles on screen. What should have been Moore's swan song only confirmed the franchise's desperate need for renewal, a recycled formula showing clear signs of exhaustion, and a Bond girl who ranks among the most insipid and irritating in the series. And Bond is wearing a grandpa tracksuit and is making quiche.
Et voila. Quiche.
What is it?
An omelette.
No, it's not, you washed-up geriatric sex machine, and you won't get laid with that.
Oh, James.
40 years later, what lessons can we draw from this film? The producers of the Bond franchise have consistently struggled to manage the endings of each Bond era. Actors tend to stay in the role for too long, eventually expressing their fatigue, and sometimes even their frustration with the character publicly. Meanwhile, recycled formulas aimed at replicating past successes have repeatedly resulted in disappointing farewells. But everything is changing in the world of James Bond. In February 2025, Amazon MGM Studios officially gained creative control over the franchise, marking the end of more than 60 years of Broccoli family stewardship. Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson, who had produced the films for 3 decades, are stepping back from day-to-day creative decisions. Is this good news? Let's take a look at how Amazon has handled other major franchises it owns. So, we're accepting an endless streak of spin-offs. Perhaps even a Moneypenny series focused on her daily office paper cuts. Or a show about young Q winning science fairs in primary school. Or a prequel about M's former... If fans are concerned about the recent changes, it's worth noting that Wilson and Broccoli, guardians of the Bond franchise for decades, have themselves struggled to manage the post-Skyfall era and its massive success. After Skyfall became the first Bond film to surpass $1 billion at the box office, the producers had difficulty charting a clear path forward. Creative disagreements with directors became more frequent, and Daniel Craig, the lead actor, grew increasingly open about his disinterest in continuing as Bond. The search for his replacement has dragged on, with no new Bond announced years after Craig's departure, further highlighting the franchise's stalled momentum and the producers' challenges in adapting to a new era. Recycled formulas and a lack of clear creative direction have resulted in disappointing follow-ups, leaving the franchise at a crossroads as Amazon MGM Studios takes the reins. There are, however, reasons for optimism, especially with David Heyman now set to lead the franchise alongside Amy Pascal. Heyman is one of the most successful producers of all time, having overseen all the Harry Potter films, as well as Gravity, Paddington, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Barbie. He's known for fiercely supporting the directors he works with, and is widely regarded as a smart, creative choice for the studio. And that's exactly what the Bond franchise needs. A new era, a fresh vision. James Bond should once again become a trendsetter, a major cinematic event that sets the tone for the entire industry, just as it did in its early days. The franchise will inevitably branch out. After all, it's done so before. But the prospect of seeing Bond return, played by an enthusiastic new actor and shaped by talented filmmakers, is genuinely exciting. And please, we beg of you, bring back David Arnold as composer. If, like James Bond, you'd like to make quiche, the recipe is in the description. And if you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. Your support is greatly appreciated. And we'll see you next month for a brand new episode of Hypercut Chronicles.